All right, welcome back, mathematicians. So next thing I want to do is factoring. This is an Algebra 2 course. Most of us should be fine factoring simpler expressions like this, which is okay. If we're not, that's fine too. But I want to take a look at it, right? So something like this. If our job is to factor or find roots, right? It's just going to be the case for us in Algebra 2, roots, or they're going to be x-intercepts as well. That's not a problem. So since we're finding roots, I'm going to go ahead and drop a 0 right there. Our roots are going to be where this expression, right? I'm just going to draw a quick sketch here. This is our expression right here. Oof, that is a quick sketch. Okay, so there's going to be 2 points here and here where our graph is going to be equal to 0, right? Where the y value is equal to 0. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set this equal to 0. And once I factor it, I'll figure out something else I could do, okay? So the general method that we're going to be using is we're going to make an x, and we're going to find two numbers that multiply to give us a -6 and add to get us a -1. So again, this is my this is my C value, right? So this is C, this is B, and this is multiplied, right? We're multiplying two numbers to get -6, and we're trying to add them together to get B. Okay, so let's list those out, right? The numbers that multiply to equal -6, that's limited, right? Numbers that can add to equal -1, there's infinite numbers of those, but there's a very limited number that can equal -6, right? So it's going to be like a 1 times 6, 6, and one of those is negative. And how about a positive 1 times a -6? That'll work. That'll multiply to give me -6. 2 times 3. Let's make one of those negative. And I'm going to put 2 times 3 again and make this 3 negative this time. However you want to look at it, okay? But out of these numbers, right? So that should be it. Out of these numbers, which of these gives me that -1? Well, it's going to be this guy right here, right? That box gives me those numbers that I need, right? It gives me, oops, that box gives me exactly what I need, right? It gives me two numbers that multiply times to equal -6 and add to give me adds to give me -1. Excuse me. All right, so next thing I want to do, I'll draw a little bit over here, get my black back. Happy little trees. Here we go. So next thing I want to do is write that as an expression, okay? So this guy is pretty easy for us, right? We'll put 2 here, -3 right here. And from there, we're good to go because this coefficient is 1. So we'll talk about when that's not the case, but for the most part, right here, I'm going to have an x plus 2 and an x minus 3 is equal to 0. And again, I just rewrote this guy in its factored form. If you multiply this out using the FOIL method or whatever you use to multiply those out, you'll see that it equals this still. And you should try it if you don't believe me. Absolutely. You know, mathematics is all about proofs, so please try it. Next, one of these, if either one of these is equal to 0, right? If I turn this into a 0, right? 0 times anything is going to give me 0, so that works out. If I can turn this into a 0, that's going to make everything a 0. That works. And if I turn this one into a 0, that makes everything a 0. Okay, so I want to make either one of these a 0. So I'm going to look in two separate cases. In the first case, that is equal to 0. In my second case, that expression is equal to 0. Again, because if one of those is equal to 0, when I multiply it times whatever this is, the other one's going to be equal to 0. So I could think about it, right? But that's not always going to be the case. So I know this side's going to be a -2, right? If I plug in -2 into here, that'll be -2 plus 2, that's a 0. 0 times anything, doesn't matter what's over here, is going to be a 0. So that works out. And I could probably figure out this one too, but we'll do the math here. So again, -2 from both sides. X is equal to -2. Okay, that's one of my answers. Add 3 to both sides. X is equal to 3. Okay, I try to make my sketch accurate to these numbers. So those are going to be my two roots, okay? And that's going to be important for us for quadratics, all right? So thanks for listening. Go ahead and watch the +1 if you still need a little bit of help when we get to our worksheet. All right.